It's really cool when one of your favorite bands can also be a band that exists in the scene with you.
This is Champaign is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Welcome to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. Today, I'm with Melody Wachtel. We're going to be talking about her song, Goth Girlfriend, off the album Dumpster Punk EP by the band This Is a Stick Up. You may know Melody from such bands as This Is a Stick Up and Not for the Faint of Heart. Melody, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I guess without further ado, why don't we just listen to the song and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, perfect.
From a dark cave, you only ever wear black, even if it's 90 degrees. Got a Siouxsie album on your record player, horror movie posters all over your wall. Took me to a seance on our first date, always wear a black veil over your face. Baby, you give me chills, but I wouldn't have it any other way. You make my telltale heart beat fast. You're a real creepy gal, but I don't want no one else. I love you, Goth Girlfriend. You live in the old graveyard, in the old abandoned church. I must admit I was scared at first, but before too long I fell in love. We only go on dates in the dark, 'cause you can't go in the sun. Mochas movies all night long, you're my crafty nightmare girl. Baby, give me chills, but I wouldn't have it any other way. You make my telltale heart beat fast. You're a real creepy gal, but I don't want no one else. I love you, Goth Girlfriend. Give me chills, but I wouldn't have it any other way. You make my telltale heart beat fast. You're a real creepy gal, but I don't want no one else. I love you, Goth Girlfriend. I love you, Goth Girlfriend. I love you, Goth Girlfriend.
And we're back. So my first question that I always like to ask is, was it the music or the words that came first? Or a melody?
I'm trying to remember what order I did everything in, because I have a tendency to kind of spit out all the lyrics and then come up with a chord progression guitar riff and then kind of stick the two together, whichever one fits. Or I'll just throw the words out there. Some of our songs are one of the other bandmates comes up with a riff and we fit them together that way. Dumpster Dash, the first song, not to get too off topic or anything.
No, that's fine.
It was just a little video recording of me playing this riff on an unplugged electric guitar, and Grant wrote some lyrics to go along with it based on some old memories he and his friend Colin had, and it became kind of our flagship song. I can't speak for everyone in the band, but it's definitely my favorite one to play. But to get back to Goth Girlfriend, I wrote the lyrics based on that like internet meme that was popular like about a year ago of like the whole Goth Girlfriend thing. I thought it'd be really kind of goofy and fun to write a song like that. And I wanted it to have this kind of like upbeat 70s punk 1-4-5 chord progressions, like kind of ripped straight from the Ramones.
Actually, I was wondering if have you ever heard Punk Rock Girlfriend by the Dead Kennedys?
Oh yeah, that was definitely a big inspiration on that song. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Punk Rock Girl by the Dead Milkmen. Don't at me. I'm so sorry. And also thank you to Melody for not making me feel like a dumbass. Yeah, well, I wasn't sure if you had heard it but it made me think about that. And if one thing that punk music tends to do is it's very referential, and it's like it shares with everybody, and I think that's kind of fun. Like if it doesn't remind you of some other band in some way, then it's not really like punk. I don't know if does that
makes sense. Yeah, I definitely tend to be pretty referential in my music. I like to make references to bands and songs and things like that.
What band would be your biggest influence, at least within this is a stick-up band?
The whole 70s punk thing was definitely big influence on me growing up, and even though I've kind of like moved away from that and started listening to a lot of other stuff, that influence has definitely stayed with me in the way I play guitar and the way I write songs and what I kind of try to go for with my music. I've also listened to a lot of Kowabunga Kid in the past couple of years. Kowabunga Kid and Nectar both are two of my favorite local bands, two of my favorite bands just in general, and just like with the really like upbeat, catchy punk rock that's still like heavy, and it's got that like loud, distorted guitar sound that I love, but it's also like got nice hook, singable melody and all that. I like, it's not necessarily pop punk because that's kind of its own thing, but it's definitely like that kind of like poppy and punky thrown together.
Well, it does this wonderful mix of like it's cheerful and yet sad at the same time.
Oh yeah,
I always like Aaron's writing style and Kamila's writing style both have that influence of like beautiful melodies, and then at the same time, you know, the words have some very serious and sad connotations. And I was going to say, like, this song is, in some ways, it feels very heartfelt, but it also is very fun and, like, tongue-in-cheek. And, like, some of the references you make, especially, like, you know, you got your Siouxsie album on your record player, and then you talk about the Telltale Heart, and, the Lovecraftian Nightmare Girl.
That one I was very proud of, yeah.
If I may put this visual in your head, whenever I listened to the song, I wanted to keep picturing a goth girlfriend that was like swaying or dancing like at half the speed of this song in like a very goth like nightclub kind of way. I don't know. I don't know. It always made me smile, but so this was kind of an amalgamation. You had kind of gotten the riff going, and then you started throwing the words in, and it's all if you think of someone who's a goth, they're the certain like thoughts of, you know, there's like a swarm of bats from a dark cave. You'll only ever wear black, even when it's hot outside. And I wanted to ask, is that you doing the solo in the middle?
That's Christian. We trade off a lot on the soloing. I think he has a majority of them, but I still do a couple in some songs. You bring this song to the band, and do you have all of the parts worked out in your head, or do you just say like, these are the chords, this is the melody I'm going to be singing, and then go at it, or like build upon it? Or this is one of the ones where it was kind of pretty much finished when I presented it to the band, but I'm definitely Grant and Kevin and Christian all put their own spin on things, because like I'm not a drummer. I don't know what kind of fills and stuff would make the song work best. Sometimes I might go in GarageBand and do a pre-programmed drum track and just say to Kevin, like, feel free to change any or all of this. And Grant will do a lot of coming up with his own parts for the bass that may be just following the chords, or it may be doing something more interesting. He really likes to play bass chords, and it ends up adding a really cool sound. Like you hear that in Angsty Avenue. Christian, we actually already we hadn't recorded yet when he joined the fold, but we did have like most, if not all, the song, all but one, because Comrade Teacher was Christian's song. He came in and added all those lead parts that you hear. We all agree as a band that they definitely like took the songs to like the next level and really brought them to kind of made it what we wanted dumpster punk to be.
If I understand correctly, that is the genre that you'd like to be, this is a stick-up would like to be categorized under. So what makes dumpster punk distinctive from like mainstream punk or, the 70s punk or even pop punk?
I think Grant's definition for it was just kind of taking all these disparate things that each respective band member was influenced by and kind of putting them together in a cohesive way, kind of like throwing it all into a dumpster almost.
Nice.
Grant is really into like the Midwest emo thing, and Kevin loves like the skate punk stuff. Christian likes that Christian and me both like that old school stuff, and he also likes to shred. Yeah, which he does a lot of.
After you say "You make my telltale heart beat fast," he has this like on the bell he's doing that.
Oh yeah, I love
that little
that.
Like the little pitter patter of a heart going, the telltale heart.
And like that's why I hesitate to call any of these like my songs like all by, because like even though I like presented this as sort of a finished product, everybody in the band definitely put their own spin on it, and it wouldn't be the song that it was if it was exactly the same as when I made that little garage band demo for my bandmates to listen to.
So you actually construct the song in GarageBand to present to the band? Yeah,
I like to do that as just an example of like, this is kind of a rough idea of what I want it to sound like, and we can go from there.
So is that predominantly how your band communicates, or are you the only one that brings it as like, not as a finished product, but as like a demo product to them?
We'll do that sometimes, or we'll maybe just send a video on Facebook Messenger of us of one of us playing a riff or something that we want to turn into a song. We like doing that because being all spread out across Illinois, it's really hard for us to all get together and jam. Like maybe 3 of us can make it, but Christian has to teach, or Kevin's got to work or something like that. Being able to like spit these things out to the group chat and then like have everybody else listen to them and kind of like form their own thing around it is a really good way for us to like get stuff written in lieu of being together in person to like jam on stuff.
That's actually pretty impressive. Like, I didn't realize that because when I've seen This Is a Stick Up Live, you seem all very solid in like how you can pull that together with such limited time together. It sounds like pretty limited time.
Oh yeah.
And that's a new one on me for a lot of the interviews that I've done so far. We mentioned you're my Lovecraftian Nightmare Girl. Is there any other, like, is there a favorite verse that you have?
My favorite is the first verse, because that's where I kind of like I feel like a lot of the best ideas and references I had in the song ended up there.
So that's the you came into my life like a swarm of bats from a dark cave. You only ever wear black, even when it's hot outside. And then when you say are you including the next stanza as part of the first verse? Oh, okay. Yeah. So the Siouxsie album on your record player, and then the horror movie. Yeah. It's like everything. All right. So of course, I feel like our listeners will want to know: is there a goth girlfriend?
Yes. And
wonderful. I'm not going to lie. This was actually the most exciting thing I had ever heard. So apologies. I may have gotten a little giddy.
Well, I actually wrote the song before I started dating my current girlfriend, Lucia, but I sort of kind of retroactively applied it to her. because she's definitely like she's super into heavy metal stuff, like specifically like metalcore kind of things like that, and she definitely presents that like goth aesthetic with like the elaborate makeup and the black clothes.
All right, now now that we know that there is a goth girlfriend, can this apply to Lucia? All right. So let's see. Does she only wear black even when it's hot outside?
Yep.
Okay. Does she have a Siouxsie album on her record player?
Actually, that one does not apply to her so much. I actually, when she came to one of our shows before she had to move back out to Virginia in the summer, I changed the lyric to be her favorite band instead of Siouxsie because, like I said, she's more into the metal thing than like the gothic rock stuff.
And favorite?
That would be Trivium for her.
Trivium.
Yeah.
All right.
Also my brother's favorite band, interestingly enough.
Horror movie posters?
She's got an Iron Maiden poster.
That's pretty hoary.
Yeah.
Wait. No, that's not the right word. Okay.
Strike that one from the record.
No kidding. Wait, yeah, what is that? That's pretty... What do you say? It's not... I'm like...
know.
I
Spooky?
like... It's like horror... That's horror movie-esque. I don't know, yeah. Beautiful. Did she take you to a seance on your first date?
Our first date was to Five Guys.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
A little more
so it was
mundane,
probably more
yeah.
in the back room. They had the
Yeah.
seance. Okay. And does she always wear a black veil over her face?
Also no.
All right. Now we're getting down to the fact and fiction here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you don't mind this line of questions. I'm
Oh, no, no.
Okay. I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that it would be okay.
Like I said, it was kind of retroactively applied. So when I first wrote all these lyrics, there was like a fictional goth girlfriend in my mind's eye that I wrote this ode to. And then when I started dating Lucia, I was like, well, she's like got that like kind of goth aesthetic, so it works.
Does she give you chills?
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah, all right. And I would assume that if she gives you chills, then she would also make your telltale heart beat fast.
Absolutely.
All right. And probably doesn't live at the old graveyard in the old abandoned church.
Nah, she lives in the suburbs outside DC.
Sorry, this makes me smile. And do you still have to admit that you were scared at first?
I mean, I'm always pretty nervous meeting girls for the first time, yeah.
Probably so it wasn't too long before you fell in love. Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is fun. I love this. Okay. Yeah, by the way, like, so for the visual, I had Melody send me the lyrics, and of course it's white text on a black background. It is definitely a goth lyric sheet.
Yeah,
So,
most anything I can turn to night mode on my computer, I do, just because I prefer it.
do you only go on dates in the dark?
No.
Okay. Can she go out in the sun?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And do you watch slasher movies all night long?
The last movie we watched together was Shrek, so no.
But have you watched slasher movies all night long?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if she's into those, but I've definitely not really been a horror movie person.
And then, but is she your Lovecraftian nightmare girl?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So, and that concludes our section of fact and fiction. Why did you choose this as your favorite piece that you've written?
I like it because oftentimes I've noticed that even in the more like upbeat, lighthearted kind of punk stuff, there's not a lot of love songs, and there's certainly not a lot of love songs written about girls by girls. I like having that there as something that's a little different than like your typical punk rock love song. I also think even if the lyrics are a little bit corny, I'm still very proud of them.
Yeah, it's almost like it wouldn't feel the same if you didn't have a certain element of like corniness to it. Like it just, because if it was actually literally like serious, you know, it would just have kind of it would defeat itself in some ways.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't fit as much with this is a stick up sound or anything like that. I'm just going to get a little like slightly maudlin here, but I was just thinking one of the things that you say in the line that I like couldn't be more true about any partner that you have in your life that you really, really care for is like a good partner will really will scare you in some way just because you end up caring about them so much that you end up like it's scary. It's like freaks you out. Well, I gotta admit, I was scared at first was one of the lines that triggered that with me. And I was just thinking, yeah, love is funny and love is scary. And it's, yeah. So, I mean, I just think even if this has a little bit of a corny edge to it, it still is very heartfelt and sincere and like fun and like,
Today's a good day to talk about love because it's me and Lucia's anniversary today, actually.
Oh, I did see that. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. 1 year?
Yep, 1 year.
Amazing. Are you in music production?
Music business. That's
music
my major,
business.
yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So, yeah, actually, and it's Milkmen, right?
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. They have a really amazing, just recording and music,
Oh, yeah.
You know, not just not just the classical music genre. It's like recording and studio production and all those kinds of things.
They definitely get you doing all of that stuff. Like all the music majors study an instrument and play in at least one ensemble. So cool. I study classical trombone and play in the wind ensemble and the jazz bands and the Latin Jazz Project and occasionally the symphony orchestra.
Was trombone your first instrument?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My dad was like an elementary music teacher for a really long time, and he actually was my music teacher growing up when we still lived in Steelville, Illinois. And he got me started on trombone, and I played in beginning bands and everything.
Why the trombone, or was it just like you just thought, oh, this looks like a good instrument? Or
I think if I recall correctly, it was a long time ago, but I think it was the one I was best at getting a sound out of, because when at the very first day of beginning bands, he like had a sample of all the instruments, and we'd go and blow on them, and I couldn't make the flute make solo noise, and I couldn't make the saxophone make noise, but the trombone I was able to get some sort of squeak out of. I also did percussion for a little bit. At first it was like everybody on each instrument is by themselves learning how to do like the basic stuff, and then once everybody came together to like be a band, I kind of had to pick one, and I just stayed on trombone.
Well, I was thinking, isn't the trombone like the mouthpiece on the trombone is probably like one of the larger embouchures that you need to have for an instrument? Well, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking like why you would have been, other than kismet or fate, you know, that you were able to get a sound out of a trombone, but you know, initially, and it wasn't just so you could go wah wah.
No, though that is very fun to do. I've come up with a lot of kind of goofy things to play. It's one of the ways I used to amuse myself in high school bands before and after rehearsal. And one thing my trombone professor said to me, because he's definitely before rehearsal overheard me playing like various random things, and he said to me one time in a lesson, he was like, you know, Mel, I don't really care what you play before rehearsals as long as you play it with a good sound. You ever think about doing like running that through some pedals or something? Oh, I've definitely thought about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious because I haven't. Yeah. I can't say that I've heard somebody like do a whole like loop pedal, you know, with you know, a trombone. I think Karthik was telling me about someone doing that. If anyone would know a weird way to make sound, it would be Karthik. Absolutely, yeah. Karthik got me going down this like experimental like noise rabbit hole, I've definitely tried to think of ways to incorporate the trombone into that.
Give me a call as soon as you start doing that, or at least post about it. And so trombone was your first instrument. From what I can tell, your entire family is just absolutely musical. So is that something that you wanted to be in a rock band, or you wanted to have a band?
Absolutely.
From like the very beginning, or did you have a band in high school or anything?
Yeah. It was me, my brother, and another friend. We were called Rocket Mouth.
That was not on the list that you sent me. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
That's going a bit back.
Oh well.
There's also somewhere deep in buried in probably the Facebook or something is video of me and my brother when we were very, very young doing Seven Nation Army.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With Dan on drums and me playing guitar. I must have like only been playing guitar for like a year or two at that point.
Yeah, I think your dad posted something, or maybe it was your mom. I don't know. Sorry to bring your dad and mom into this, but of Dan with like a teal or like aqua Telecaster or something. Not Telecaster, Stratocaster, and he just had that like the same face that he makes now when he's playing. But I thought it's funny. Like sometimes people just don't change that much.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny. Do you have anything else you'd like to kind of say about the song or like its development? Because I know we just barely scratched the surface, but
I think I just like where it went. Like I've said something along these lines earlier, but I like how even if I present a quote unquote finished song to the band and say this is more or less how it's going to sound, it's these like little things like Kevin hitting the bell in that way, or Christian adding in those guitar leads in that solo, or Grant coming up with a really cool bass line that like really turns it into what it is. So definitely that song wouldn't be what it is without the rest of my bandmates.
I mean, I'm impressed by the fact that there's not a lot of time to meet between the band members, and then how you're able to pull together in a cohesive manner is just like, and I also don't get the sense that anyone in the band thinks of it as work either. So,
oh no,
but you take it very seriously.
We take it very seriously, but we have fun doing it.
Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week, they can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246. Well, let's talk about the scene. And you've already mentioned that you're going to school at Milliken, which is in Decatur. What are some of the differences between the Decatur music scene and the Champaign-Urbana music scene? Because I feel like you're definitely doing things in both scenes, and certainly feel free to if there's places that Champaign-Urbana can improve, certainly mention that. But
I have always kind of felt like in Decatur there's not nearly, I mean, I don't really have as much of an experience as like what's like outside of what's going on musically outside of the campus. And there's Martin is getting to know, or Martin, the head of the music business department.
Uh-huh.
He's getting to know a lot of people from the area who run various businesses. Like he knows some people from the band the Soy City Stranglers and the owner of Speakeasy Records.
Oh yeah.
And other places. So definitely there's some interesting stuff happening. And I remember him talking about somebody wanting to take the basement of a building, I think the building that the Speakeasy and all those other things are in, and convert it into a venue. And he was talking about them wanting to wallpaper the wall behind the stage with a big map and just have every band who plays there like put a little X where they come from.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And I definitely think that there's some cool stuff happening there. But as far as campus goes, there's not anything like the Champaign music scene. When Kevin was still a student last year before he graduated, he hosted a lot of house shows in his basement. And
what was the name of that venue?
House, Haus.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of the shows that I was aware of that happened over that year were at that venue, and it seemed like there was a lot going on musically that year. And the year before that, there was a house that was called Black Lives Manor that also hosted a lot of cool shows. And I don't know when it was happening. My freshman year, really, I was just kind of like trying to get my bearings. There hasn't been as much this year, and there's never really that many bands around campus. I think because most of the music majors are practicing for their juries or studying for survey exams or something. Everybody's just either they don't know the right people to start a band or they don't feel they have enough time. So definitely my musical experience at Milkmen is a lot more of like the academic music. I do think it's very nice to kind of like have both of those worlds. Like I'm doing like not necessarily classical, but like the academic music at school, and then I'll come over here and play a punk show or a metal show. They're very different, but they're both very cool in their own respective ways. I probably won't ever get another chance to play in a symphony orchestra or jazz big band or anything like that.
What is your favorite venue here in Champaign-Urbana?
Oh, that's hard to say. I've had a lot of fun at shows at Casa de Sasha. I think that's where most of the house shows I've seen have been. I've really enjoyed playing at IMC a lot too.
Yeah.
And just for the variety of groups that play there. It seems like the vast majority of like the heavier stuff, and well, less the heavier stuff, but the more out there kind of experimental stuff kind of makes IMC its home. And I think it's really cool that there's a space where people can kind of just make whatever music they want. Not that the other venues don't allow people to do that or anything like that. It's just that like it seems like most of the noise and stuff like that is kind of centered around IMC.
Actually, I'm trying to think. This may come out after. It probably will. But I'm thinking about like Flor Fest. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is that what they're...
I'm not sure, actually.
Pronunciation. It's like the worst thing for podcasts.
We're kind of like running a contingency, like this is a stick-up kind of contingency plan for that, because I have a big band thing for jazz band at the Decatur Club that night. So they're going to rock that as a 3-piece.
Oh.
We do a lot of like, if one of the band members can't make it to a show, we'll usually play it as a 3-piece. Like I think we played without everybody except Kevin at least once. Because like if we have a guitar, if we have someone to cover guitar, bass, and drums, we can manage. Not that everybody's not important, but we can always make do. We can come and play the show. Gotcha. Sort of like how I try to emulate what Christian's doing on lead guitar when he's not there. Because on our tour we just did, for all the shows but the one in Wisconsin, Christian was teaching, so he couldn't be there. I was the sole guitarist, and when we did that Halloween benefit show at Blips, Grant couldn't make that one, so I played the bass.
I don't know if I could wrap my head around like swapping that much, but if you are already working on like constructing some of these pieces, you kind of already have the sense of...
Also, the Halloween one was a cover show, so I was starting from bass with that. I was starting on bass. We did a Dinosaur Jr. set, which I felt a little bit guilty about because I was pushing that because they're my favorite band of all time.
What's your favorite gig that you've ever played?
That's a hard one. I've played so many cool gigs. Even back in high school, this one probably isn't going to be what I would call my favorite, just because I enjoy playing with Stick Up a lot more than I ever enjoyed playing with Rocket Mouth. No offense to anyone in that band, but Isaac actually got us on the CU Pride Festival one year when it was in Lincoln Square Mall.
How long has a Stick Up been around? 2
years. This is a Stick Up. That was my band from high school that did that.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
okay.
I guess that was like one of the first times that like it actually felt like we were part of the scene, really, and not just like a bunch of kids doing some covers of Ramones and Fall Out Boy, which was still what we were doing. We had maybe 2 or 3 originals, but we never recorded anything.
To be a part of a scene is kind of a huge responsibility in some ways, right? Like, if you're part of the scene, it's like you have to support all the other musicians that are in the scene, and I don't know, it's pretty remarkable. I do think that the Champaign-Urbana music scene is probably one of the most supportive that I've seen. It's just, that's the impression that I get, at least from talking to people when they travel on tour. And
since I didn't really answer the question, I think if I had to pick a favorite show, which again is hard because I've played so many awesome shows, probably the one at IMC at the end of the summer when it was us and Not For the Faint of Heart and at least one other band that I can't remember, but the last one was a 3-way noise set with I think it was definitely From Circumstances and Karthik, and then the third was Nick does so many things I can't even remember which one it was, but I think it was Arborus. I know either Arborus or Acid Funeral, but there was all 3 of them at the same time, and it was so much, but it was also really, really cool, and that was like what got me going into this like noise thing. I remember going up to Karthik afterwards, and I was like, I'm into the noise thing now. I'm like super down with this. And some other honorable mentions would be playing at Sipyard with Bullnettle and Mirror from St. Louis. Both of those bands totally killed it. And Mirror we talked to before and after, and they were all super nice and very cool. The other one I'd want to mention would be playing at Casa de Sasha with Kowabunga Kid. Just because for me it was like on par with meeting Dinosaur Jr. or like playing a show with Dinosaur Jr. because I love that band to death. And it's really cool when one of your favorite bands can also be a band that exists in the scene with you, because like I said, they're like so good, and they've definitely been a big influence on me. And to play a show with them and like have them say that they liked your set and everything. And it was also funny seeing their drummer and our drummer bond over mutually wearing wrestling attire. Their drummer had a Bullet Club jacket, I think, and Kevin was like wearing his Bullet Club shirt. And they were just like, nice, awesome.
I can't even think of anything that I could disagree about that. Like, everything about Kowabunga Kid and even KidNECTAR and just that group of people, each one of them are completely like approachable and kind, and like they're good people, and their music is smart, and it's approachable, and it's how can I say it? Their music is exactly like they are, right? Like it's smart and it's approachable, and it's fun, and it, it's relatable. Yeah. And I just wish Kowabunga Kid would get out more and play.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's putting them on blast enough, but geez, come on. I don't know if I just realized as that came out of my mouth, I'm like, did I use blast right? No, probably not. Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to support Jubilee Cafe. Jubilee Cafe is a free weekly meal program at Community United Church of Christ, 805 South 6th Street in Champaign, Illinois. Jubilee Cafe serves a home-cooked meal from 5 to 6:30 each Monday. Their mission is to feed hungry people by cooking healthy, delicious meals and by serving their guests restaurant-style with servers waiting on tables. Jubilee Cafe is open to anyone who cares to eat with them. Because food insecurity among students is so high, they serve students as well as others in and around the Champaign-Urbana community who struggle with hunger. Meals are free to all and will be served each Monday evening, located in the accessible lower level of the building at 6th and Daniel Streets in Champaign. For more information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email them at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. That's jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org. Melody. What is your favorite non-musical thing?
Oh gosh, that's really hard. I do so much related to music and not a whole lot outside of it. Most of what I do that isn't music is video games.
What's your favorite video game what's your favorite video game these days?
Historically, it's been the Zelda franchise. That's been something that I've been into since I was little. Like, I got a GameCube for like my 6th birthday, and it came with Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I spent so much time playing that game.
See, I played it on the original Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, NES. Well, and what was really cool about that game, that was the first one that you could actually like save your progress. And I remember it came in like this gold, like the cartridge was a gold cartridge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the Nintendo 64 version.
The Nintendo 64 version has... That
was the one that when they still did cartridges. They re-released it a couple times on GameCube, and I had it in... My GameCube came packaged with this collector's edition Zelda that had like... It had the first two, like the very, very first two Zelda games from like the Super Nintendo, and it had Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, both of the Nintendo 64 ones, all on one disc. And it also had like a little demo of Wind Waker that ended up getting me to buy Wind Waker, which is also a very phenomenal game. The other one, when I was a kid, was Kirby Air Ride. That was the other one I got right when I started having a GameCube. And also Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. And that game in particular sent me on this like thing. Like, I still love racing games, and I have this weird thing with cars where I think cars are awesome, but also I hate driving.
So what made you pick up the guitar?
That kind of brings it up back to video games a bit, because actually my brother got Guitar Hero for his birthday, and we both played a ton of Guitar Hero. And eventually it got to the point where it's like, I'm enjoying playing on the little plastic controller, but I want the real deal. For my birthday, my parents decided they were going to get me a guitar to start out. My two top choices were down to Epiphone Casino and a Dean Flying V. And I went with the Dean Flying V, and I'm still kicking myself for it because I relinquished the Flying V to my brother because I was like not about it anymore. And I'm just like, I wish I'd done the Casino, because the Casino is a fantastic guitar, especially for an Epiphone. I'm also more of a Fender person anyway than a Gibson person. Christian is our resident Gibson aficionado. So we've got this interesting thing where I've got like my most of the time I'm either using my Telecaster or my Mustang. So like Fender single coils, and then he's got his Gibson Melody Maker, is one of his Les Pauls. So we've got this weird like Fender Gibson thing. It ends up resulting in a really interesting guitar sound because the Gibson has definitely like the kind of like richer kind of humbuckery sound, and then I've got like my bright pointed kind of power chordy stuff, and I think they blend together really well. And I think that's something Christian pointed out to me actually, was having that like Fender Gibson attack was something that he liked a lot about our sound.
Sorry for another aside here, but when we stopped to eat some more oatmeal cookies, I casually brought up that I had been playing guitar for around 30 years and that I still can't seem to manage to string my guitar correctly ever. And to be honest, I still don't know if I am stringing my guitars correctly. Like I don't know why I can never manage to actually get, like, either I have it wound like once or twice around the peg, or I pull it back so much that when it finally winds around, you know, on like the high and low E string, those always, like, either it's too short or it's too long, and I don't know. Every time I just screw it up every time. But
yeah. But that's definitely something I also struggle with. I think I know how to do it right, but sometimes I have mixed results. Like one time I was stringing one of my guitars and I did it on the first string the wrong way, but I didn't want to, like, the wrong direction, but I didn't want to unwind it and do it again. So I just kept it and I did the rest the right way. So I had one string that I had to turn the opposite, like I had to turn the peg the opposite direction than all the others to tune it. It was really weird.
I feel like there should be a support group for this, so we can talk about it, talk it out.
Also, trying to restring my Gretsch with the Bigsby before our recording session for the Dumpster Punk EP was a nightmare. I'd never attempted to restring a Bigsby before, and this was at like 10 p.m.
Oh,
so I was like,
is there something particularly, like, I'm just not recalling, like, is there something particularly, like, unique about the way that it gets strung?
It's got, like, it doesn't go through the body or anything. It's got, like, and there's not, like, a thing that you slip it through, really. It's hooked on by this little peg on the bridge. And the problem I kept encountering, and I'm sure somebody is going to hear this and be like, oh, it's so obvious, you just do whatever. But they've got this little peg, and you like put the like circular thing at the end of the string on the peg, and then you slip it through and do it like normal. But the thing is, anytime I like took my finger off of the peg to go and like wrap the string around, it would just come out. So I ended up like I had to like wrap the string around the peg and like move it into place or like tighten it with one hand while I used my thumb to hold the thing on. It ended up taking me like an hour and a half to get that done, and I was like I was like trying to go to bed early to like wake up bright and early and get out there, because the studio we went to was this like little farm outside Blono, so it was a bit of a drive, and we were starting at like 10 a.m. So I was trying to be well rested. I ended up finishing stringing the thing at like 11:30 at night.
Is it sad that I actually broke out into a little bit of a sweat as you were talking about, like, it just kept popping off as you're trying?
Yeah, and I was getting so frustrated with it too. I was like, I'm gonna sell this guitar. I'm gonna get rid of this guitar. I can't deal with this anymore. Obviously, I don't want to do that because I love that Gretsch. It's different than my other guitars, and it's got its like little quirks, which is why I don't use it for stick-up stuff as often. Well, I ended up using it for 2 songs on the EP. Most of them I just used my Mustang for, which I also restring before without much trouble, because it's got like a pretty traditional bridge. But I wanted the Gretsch for Angsty Avenue because first of all, I was doing more clean stuff and I thought it would have a really interesting sound for that. And the other thing is, I was kind of like adding this like little feedback noise thing underneath the guitar solo part of Angsty Avenue, and I thought that would be a really good guitar to use for that because it's got the big chamber, so it feeds back really easily if you add distortion to it.
Gotcha.
Because the sound just like bounces around inside the body.
Yeah.
It's also like very controllable feedback, so like depending on where you position yourself in relation to the amp, you can like make it stronger or weaker. It's got like 3 volume knobs, so I could make it do a kill switch thing with the pickup selector.
Gotcha.
Which is also very fun. So it's like, in comparison to some of my other guitars, it's more of a niche thing, but it's definitely something I'm able to pull out and do some interesting stuff with.
Cool. And that's a Gretsch?
Yeah, it's just a Gretsch Electromatic full hollow body. I have a lot of guitars. My most recent acquisition is actually one that was already in the house. We had this Yamaha kind of like Les Paul clone-ish thing, just kind of hanging out. It was my dad's, but he never played it. It was just like hanging out in the basement, and a lot of the hardware and electronics on it ended up getting all rusty. My brother wanted to like turn it into a heavy metal guitar, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I like the idea of you doing that to this very pretty guitar. So I was like, what if I buy pickups and I pay you to assemble it, because he's been trying to like get into the wiring and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember playing that guitar a lot when I was younger, and it's very nice. My well of that I draw from for the acoustic stuff is from what, after punk rock, like probably the most influential genre on me growing up was alt country. I grew up hearing Uncle Tupelo and the Drive-By Truckers. Well, less the Drive-By Truckers. I think that was slightly more. I mean, that could have been. I don't remember if that was around when I was growing up. Well, they existed when I was growing up, but I don't remember if my dad listened to them back then. But it was definitely like the Bottle Rockets and Uncle Tupelo and Sunvolt. J Farrar stuff was on heavy rotation in my household.
Yeah. Well, that's the local like loop-in too. Yeah, because
we were in that like Southern Illinois, like vaguely Belleville-ish area, and that's kind of like a couple of years before I was born in that area is where Uncle Tupelo was from Belleville, I think, and Bottle Rockets were from, I don't remember the name of the town, but it's like dinky little town in Missouri, near that area. Bottle Rockets and Sunvolt both have songs about the flood of 93. That happened, I'm pretty sure that was the year my parents got married that happened. The Bottle Rockets, it's Get Down River. I think Tear Stained Eye by Sunvolt is also about that.
Melody, thank you so much for coming out and talking about your song, Goth Girlfriend, and about the scene and about your favorite non-musical thing. But thank you for making the trip out here. And, I look forward to seeing new things coming out from This Is a Stick Up. And I thought I saw something about Not for the Faint of Heart is going to be releasing something, if not just releasing songs when they play them. Is that what?
I think we're gearing towards a follow-up to Corporate Greed.
All right.
And that'll be exciting for me because this will be the first Not for the Faint of Heart release that I actually play on. Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Melody reminding you, great music is out there. Go find it where you live.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio sounds bigger on the inside.